Hey, welcome to my little ASMR show. My job is to help you find calm and find peace of mind, and I'm gonna try my best. And here's a short preview of what you can expect.
Interesting.
This book has like little rubber things, scales to touch.
There's a lot of things that I've been thinking about these last days and weeks.
I got involved with a publishing project.
And there you have it. A la chicken diesel chicken wrap.
But we're going to need a few things first.
But then I've drawn kind of stronger looking Pokemon like Buzzwole.
So yeah, I've been in Switzerland the last 10 days, so I couldn't really put up much stuff, but at the same time now I have a lot of cool material, ideas, and intentional and unintentional ASMR.
Season it up, a little bit of salt there, a little bit of pepper. That's it, touch more salt. Beautiful.
And yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're not too stressed out and too restless.
You have a good heart. Lots of light shining in you. Beautiful, amazing energy. It's really a pleasure to work with you.
Just before we get into the ASMR pics, there's something that I wanted to quickly talk about. It's just kind of interesting because I am like that as well. It's like we in the West, how we're so future oriented, and we're always thinking about the next thing we need to do, the next doctor's appointment, the next exam if we're in school, the next thing at work, the next deadline, the next thing that we think is super important. Then we tell ourselves, if I have accomplished this thing, then I can be calm, then I can take the time to enjoy my life and be happy. And we trick ourselves in this way because once we did this thing, then suddenly, directly, the next 1 or 2 or 3 new problems pop up, and now we get to focus on these new problems. And it seems like we almost have a scanner that always looks for the next problem that it can worry about. And it's kind of funny because it seems to be more of a disease of us first world Western society, so to say. And I guess it also helps us to be successful because we need to plan ahead, because living in colder countries, our ancestors needed to plan for the cold winters, and I guess it allows us to be economically successful. But obviously it comes at a price, and the price is not being really able to be present, not being able to really enjoy the moment. And there's other countries and people who don't live like that, who kind of live more in the present, who take much more time to just sit and drink and dance and sing. And sometimes we in the West tend to look with some arrogance at those people and say, why aren't they like us? Why don't they work more? Why aren't they more serious about their future? But I bet they do the same, and they think, why aren't they like us? Why do they live like this? It doesn't make any sense. And I guess if you're thinking about maximizing your happiness, probably they have it figured out more than we do. And it's just pretty interesting how we evolve this way. Depression means living in the past, and anxiety is living in the future all the time. And it kind of got me thinking, because I think both basically are unhealthy and flawed and kind of foolish, because both living in the future and living in the past means living in your head and not living in the present. And it's kind of funny because I feel most people aren't even aware of this phenomenon that we always think about the next thing, and then finally I can be happy and calm. But even when you become aware of it, you still can't turn it off, because I guess we have been so conditioned in the system, by school, by our parents, and by everything, by our peers, by our teachers, to be this way, that we can't really turn it off unless we get really drunk. And I think that's the main reason why people drink so much alcohol here. I think both living in the past and living in the future are kind of self-centered, and you don't realize that you only have this present moment, that this present moment is your life, and not the future and not the past. This is where our life happens. I can already be happy now. I can already be calm now. Pretty obvious, right? But kind of difficult to implement if you've been trained to think and operate differently. Alright, let's maybe talk intentional ASMR. One of my favorite clips was from a South Korean channel, I believe. They have so many good channels there. And the channel is called Soy ASMR, and basically it's a pretty thorough facial treatment at home. I think she does it with her cousin or something, she says. I'm not sure if putting all these creams on your face is that good personally, but one thing's for sure, all the scraping and brushing and lotion applying sounds are quite relaxing, so here's a few moments of it. Dr. Tiye ASMR also made a great video where basically he's excavating gold. It's not real gold, but it's kind of a, I don't know, maybe it's soap, I'm not even sure. But just these deep excavation, digging sounds combined with a really deep and bassy and unique voice of Dr. Tiye just make for great ASMR.
A gold brick. Other tools. Interesting. I'm sensing something a little. I think we are ready. I think we are close. I can feel the movement. Oh, this is a fine piece indeed.
I really like discovering new and innovative ASMR, and a really good channel is ASMR Chess, and they had twice an Inuit woman who has this very specific accent. I think the language is called Kalali Suit or something, and I just never heard it before. She's beautiful too, by the way.
иммаққамиина сорпиассана туллуми иссиаруйунганнарутта иммақа фимилаарутта маарла сиарингуутаанна сукатаарлана сукатаарулоорлуни ассун тоқусуннани умиаэққаани матуусорлу пааралугу унинганиарсаралани сукатаарлана ингасаттумак.
So what else? I think Gibi really killed it this week because she made 2 great videos. One where she basically flips through sensory children books, which are basically books with different surfaces which you can touch, which is a great idea for ASMR, obviously.
So this book has like little rubber things, scales to touch. Like this little dragon's belly up here. I like this dragon a lot. So it's something that you should typically avoid. So I would actually heed this advice here. You just find a hose. Who is purchasing said dragon? He's got a little textured belly.
Another one is where she basically puts small mosaics or small diamonds on a picture. That's kind of something you can buy apparently. I didn't know it exists.
So you have all these color codes on the side, and then it's basically paint by number, little letters. I think I need to weigh this down. Otherwise it's gonna be a bad time. So let me grab something to weigh this down with, and let's just do a little bit. We'll go for as long as we feel like it. Okay. So you peel back this, and then the canvas is sticky. So we're going to be working on like this small corner. I am glad I got I think this is a small canvas. So then you take this. Keep going. That one needs to be altered a little bit. There we go.
Alright, I really love those hairdresser videos, as you might know, and there's this great Turkish barber called Anil Jamak or something, and he made another great back massage video actually, even though he usually makes haircut videos, but it's really good, it's really nice and soapy, and he has an interesting tool too, which really doesn't make that great sounds, but still I enjoyed it a lot, so check it out. So yeah, I shouldn't forget to mention 2 amazing ASMR artists who have been killing it for a while. One is Stacey Astor, which honestly I haven't heard so much of before, but I think she's doing great close-up triggers, takes a ton of time and has great props. And she made a really long video and some great props like small balls, and here's just my favorite few moments, but the entire video is great. Alright, let's get into the unintentional ASMR. I have quite a lot to show you because I've been away and I'm really looking forward to that, so let's get into it. So first of all, there's this guy who is the inventor of copy and paste and many other things. He worked for Apple and he recently passed away, unfortunately, so rest in peace. But here's a pretty nice, relaxing video where he explains stuff and he's tapping too, so please check it out.
I'm Larry Tesler, and I was with Xerox PARC from 1973 to 1980. My title while I was there was member of the research staff, which most of us had that title. While I was there, I got involved with a publishing project which resulted in a very unusual, for that time, text editor named Gypsy. What I'd like to do is show you what it was like to edit in Gypsy, in particular, the role of cut and paste, which were new commands at that time. I'm using an Alto computer, revived and resuscitated. At PARC, we developed other software, Smalltalk, for example. And in Smalltalk, it was much simpler. It's rectangles with words, a stack of words in them, is a pop-up menu. And we still use those today. They aren't the only kinds of menus, but they're still around today. And now it's key concept followed by write. And if we say paste cut as a chord, it's write followed by key concept.
And then one thing, kind of unusual maybe, but Shaquille ONeal making chicken wraps in his kitchen. He has a pretty deep, relaxing voice and he's pretty funny, so I liked it, so please check it out.
Today I'm making chicken a la de la Zelle. Basically it's just chicken wrap with some shredded cheese. Over here you have the baked chicken that's already been cut. I'm not allowed to eat a sandwich, but I'm allowed to eat a healthy wheat wrap. So the ingredients are baked chicken, cheese, wheat tortilla wraps, and mayonnaise. So, la 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 la, just a little bit, and put some right there. La 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 la, just a little bit, right? Over here again. Actually, I'm gonna get 2 plates because I want y'all to see this. So I'll make this one last. Put this over here, but just do 2 plates with some cheese right there. I'll take this cheese, make that thing really nice. Just put a little dab of mayonnaise on it, just a little bit, and there you have it. a la chicken diesel chicken wrap. And you can fold it either way you want it. Yeah, I like the little chipotle fold right there. And you fold it like that, and then you got one wrap, get another plate. 2, 1, judges turn around for the final preparation. Oh, that boy know what he doing. This boy know what he doing. Oh, in the kitchen with Shaq. See you later, boo-boo.
Then I really enjoyed a bit of a boring story about fixing a roof with different hammers and nails, but the voice is very unique and I like it a lot. It doesn't really have a video clip though.
Last night, the wind blew some of the felt off the shed. And if it rains, the rain will get through the hole and into the shed. Now I have a piece of felt and I've cut it to the right size. But what we have to do is take this piece of felt and we have to fix it over the hole in the roof so that the rain won't get in. But we're going to need a few things first. The first thing we need is a stepladder so that we can reach up onto the roof of the shed. We also need some roofing nails. These are special nails and you use these only on roofs. And they're made in a special way so that even when the rain falls, the nails never get rusty. We also need a hammer to hammer in the nails.
I also really liked the video of a pretty soft-spoken thrift store seller who's really enthusiastic about her work.
Today is Tuesday and I am on my way to different thrift stores, hoping to bring you along with me and show you what I'm finding, what's on the shelves. Here is another leather piece for travel. It's a men's shaving kit, I would call this. I do pick up these type of items. I pick up Tumi, Cole Haan, Tommy Bahama. Quite a few of them I've done well with, but that one was not a good brand and it wasn't in great shape, in my opinion. That last item was a cigar humidor. As I've said before, the wood aisle or brown aisle is always my favorite. I find the most items on this aisle. This was a little cigar box that somebody turned into a purse. How stinking cute is this?
Then there's this really crazy, super thorough, difficult restoration of an anvil by, I think, a Russian guy, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a Korean guy, I'm not even sure. But there's tons of really interesting triggers, and I really admire the craftsmanship and the patience to do something like this. Then there's a bit of an unusual clip. It's a guy playing a simulation of a surface-to-air missile, which is from the Soviet times, and he basically explains how it works, and it's quite relaxing, so here's a few seconds of it.
Hello everybody. Today I thought I would show you a very interesting simulator that I found quite some while ago. This right here is a SAM simulator. We have the elevation and azimuth display for the target tracking radar, which is a machine designed, well, to track the airplanes really, while there's another radar responsible for locating them. Proceeding on, We have the Fire Control Officers panel, which shows missile readiness controls, the fire buttons, the target tracking computer output, altitude of the target plane. So we go to the target tracking officer and we adjust the velocity and set it to AS3 tracking. So now it's locked in elevation and azimuth, but we still need to find the exact range.
Another cool one, short one, was a pretty soft-spoken guy on how to decode control keys. Basically, he has different tools and I don't know how he does it, but it's kind of interesting and cool.
In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about how to decode what the control key would be for an existing A2 system. And going to the very back barrel, that's going to be our first key cut. So that's the first pin we're going to want to identify. Firmly place the pin ejector pin in the core. Give it a couple of good taps. Carefully remove the pin ejector. And now slowly rotate the block of wood and the core simultaneously. Using the key gauge, we're going to identify that the first cut should be a 7. The key lines up correctly, and we have now confirmed and identified that that first cut is a 7.
Then there's a guy with a pretty nice Asian accent doing a comparison between two TVs. Just a few seconds of the clip. Here you go.
This is just a quick video to compare the LG B9 versus the C9 to help you decide if it's worth spending a few £100 more on the latter. On my right is the LG C9 and on my left is the LG B9. Both are 55-inch models which have been calibrated for both SDR and HDR. While this crushing of shadow detail can be calibrated out fairly easily in SDR, it's not as straightforward in HDR and Dolby Vision modes.
And then one thing that I just found interesting, but it's basically an art director of Pokemon who explains how he draws Pokemon, and he has a nice voice, and he draws one specific Pokemon which looks like an ice cream cone or something, but not my favorite design, but still pretty nice.
I'm drawing Vanillites. I started working here 10 years ago. 10 years ago this year. I have kind of silly Pokemon, or kind of whimsical Pokemon, like the Vanillite line, but then I've drawn kind of stronger looking Pokemon like Buzzwole or Guzzlord. They're quite fierce and intimidating, but they're aliens, so they're kind of a little strange at the same time.
Right, right.
I haven't drawn that many kind of conventional animal looking Pokemons. I've drawn more kind of alien Pokemon or ghost Pokemon, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I sketch a lot on my iPad, and I just tried it out as a technique. I liked it, and so I've kept drawing like this recently.
Nice. That looks great.
There's a lot of things that I've been thinking about these last days and weeks, and in my newsletter findcalm.com/Sunday I usually write about these things. I don't know if I'm a great writer, but I like writing because it also helps me clear my thoughts and just get it out. And there were mainly two things which are really important to me because it's stuff that always comes back to my mind because I think it kind of sticks because I think it's important to me. And the first one is stories, namely how we as humans have evolved to think in stories. If you read the book by Yuval Noah Harari, the bestseller Sapiens, he basically said one of the main reasons why we humans were successful is because we passed on knowledge through stories. And this is a great thing in a way because it helps us be smarter and it's a good way to learn, but also it can be problematic if you view your life in stories, because we humans, we are pattern recognition machines. We are also meaning searching machines. We always want to see how certain things that happen to us or to other people fit into our story. And in the story, obviously, we're the main character, we're the main person. But it's kind of dangerous to look at your life like this, because these stories can also come to haunt us. And actually, they also depress us, because if you talk to somebody who's depressed, they will always tell you some story which is inaccurate and pretty irrational. Like, let's say a pretty drastic example is an anorexic person who says, I'm way too skinny, and as a kid once this one bully told me I look kind of fat, and this is why now I'm super skinny, but I still believe that I'm too fat. So basically people paint these stories which are oftentimes crazy and usually not accurate, and even if they are somewhat accurate, I think we tend to dramatize our story, because we learn from Hollywood and the TV series that a story needs to be dramatic and needs to be sad and needs to have conflict in it. And I think that's kind of dangerous. And also I think social media has kind of contributed to us believing we're the main character in our story and that we're super important. And I mean, we tended to imagine that we have an audience applauding us, whatever we do. But now with social media, we have an actual audience who really seems to be listening to us. And all of this is obviously fueling our ego, and also making that we live in our head and always create stories which can be helpful if they're positive. Let's say you believe you're the greatest businessman in the world. It can be helpful because you're gonna really work hard. But then also, if you notice that you're not that successful, this good story is gonna become a tragic story about how your life has been bad and how it all began as a child when you were mistreated by your parents, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this is why now you're lonely and unsuccessful. And the problem is, if something happens to you, let's say you miss a flight, that alone isn't the end of the world. But if you make a story out of it, like, oh, now that this happened and my boss was already doing this and he was already criticizing me, and now that I missed my flight, I'm gonna miss this meeting and I'm gonna fail completely, and this is why I'm good for nothing, I'm gonna end on the street because I'm a loser, and it already happened in my school. And I mean, we all have these stories, be honest, that we tell ourselves. Some are good, but many of them are actually bad, and we're the tragic hero, usually about being victimized in our childhoods or something. We can't turn that off, but just be aware when you storyfy life. Be aware when you create narratives, and just be aware that we're not that important and that we're not that relevant, and just try to live more in the present instead of making everything a Hollywood movie. You're not a movie star, I'm not a movie star, it's all good. The other thing that I tend to think about quite a lot is kind of a difficult question for me, because I always like to get new information on how to become more calm, how to reach inner peace. I want to improve, I want to become a better person. But then I think this also has its limits, because I personally think that our intellect cannot really shield us from suffering, from really bad stuff happening in our lives. Because I feel like a lot of people who are into self-improvement and personal development and philosophy are kind of neurotic people who want to be able to control everything that happens, to mitigate all risks, and be perfectly prepared for when something bad happens. But let's be honest, once something really bad happens, once shit really hits the fan, your little mindfulness training, is it really gonna save you? Your little meditation is probably not gonna make you calm when you know that a loved one is sick or you are really sick. And we shouldn't be cynical about it though, but it's just a reality. And just reading about Jordan Peterson, who unfortunately had some really bad health issues because he got addicted to benzos, and his wife got terminal cancer, and he actually almost died from his benzo addiction. I think he had to go to Russia because it was so severe. He was suicidal, and he was in an intensive care unit for like 4 weeks, and he has lasting neurological damage. But what I found so surprising is that such a well-known guy for being so hardworking, so smart, and so well-versed when it comes to philosophy and psychology and everything would fall down and crumble in such a way, because obviously life threw some really hard things at him. But a cynical person could say, hey, didn't his philosophy save him? It's kind of funny that he goes around preaching, but he couldn't even save himself. But I honestly think we should have empathy. And I also think we should have empathy with people who want to become better and want to develop themselves, because they likely struggle with these things in their lives, and they kind of maybe even have to be like that to cope with normal life. So what I'm trying to say is, even though when shit really hits the fan and you get something really bad happening, you're never going to be perfectly prepared. You're going to be devastated, and that's okay. It's still good to try to improve yourself, to work on calming your mind, to work and having more peace of mind, to work on being more loving, more kind, because that's all we can do, and we humans are flawed, and that's okay. We're never going to be perfect, and I think that's a good realization. And you shouldn't beat yourself up for not being perfectly calm when you're super sad, and you shouldn't beat yourself up for being stressed, because nobody can escape being a human, and being a human means being very flawed, being very crazy, and having a few glimpses of greatness, of unconditional love, of beauty that we should cherish. But we shouldn't expect to be perfect superheroes, because we have seen that even the people that we thought have it all figured out, like Jordan Peterson, but also some pop stars or rock stars, get depressed, get suicidal, and don't have it all figured out. So it's all good. So that's a few thoughts. I hope it was actually uplifting and not depressing for you. And I really enjoy spending time with you. So alright, have a good day, have a good week. I really appreciate you being here with me, and this is it. Bye.
Thank you very much. How do you feel?
Very good.
Good? Thank you. Blessings.